Physician-assisted euthanasia should be legalized in California. Before I get into why this law should be passed, I will be clarifying the difference between euthanasia and physician-assisted suicide. According to the 2009 Merriam-Webster Dictionary, euthanasia is the act or practice of killing or permitting the death of hopelessly sick or injured individuals in a relatively painless way for reasons of mercy. Physician-assisted suicide is a more specific type of euthanasia. According to my source, Euthanasia, as a reference handbook by Jennifer F. McDougall, the combined terms of assisted suicide is an act or instance of taking the life of one who is of sound mind voluntarily and intentionally. In our case, a physician would be assisting the patient. Now, there are two types of euthanasia, passive and active. In the passive treatment, it is stated in the same reference book mentioned above that it is the act of letting someone die. This means doctors either stop or do not initiate medical treatment that sustains life, such as artificial respiration through a respirator or an IV drip containing nutrients and essential liquids to ensure hydration. In the active treatment, someone causes the death of the sick person without the person's participation. In these circumstances, the doctor injects the patient with a fatal dose of drug. Today, I will be presenting our claim that euthanasia through physicians should be legalized in California. As of now, there are only two states, Washington and Oregon, in which physician-assisted suicide is legal. Our first claim is that each person is entitled to exercising his or her autonomy. The 2009 edition of Merriam-Webster's Dictionary defines autonomy as the quality or state of being self-governing. It is the right of self-directing freedom and moral independence. This brings me to the current issue standing with this policy. As of now, California does not have the option of physician-assisted suicide. Because physician-assisted suicide is not an option for suffering patients, the patients are denied autonomy. Physician-assisted suicide has been an ongoing issue in politics. Numerous surveys have been conducted, surveys that yielded results such as the following. In a telephone poll conducted in May 2007 by a unit of the Associated Press, 1,000 randomly selected adults were asked a series of questions. When asked, do you think it should be legal or illegal for doctors to help terminally ill patients end their own lives by giving them a prescription of fatal drugs? 48% of the tested population said yes, while 44% said no. The remaining breaks down into 5% with no opinion and 31% with no response. The issue that is brought up from the results is that if even a very small percentage of the test population voted to legalize physician-assisted suicide, it should have been made into an option. This brings me to my next point. The significance of our claim is to ultimately end suffering for terminally ill patients, as well as patients who suffer from lifelong enduring pain. By offering euthanasia through physicians, we can avoid cruel and unusual punishment on patients suffering from unbearable pain and terminal illnesses. Pain and suffering is the driving force behind the push for legalizing physician-assisted suicide. The reality of pain is discussed in F. McDougall's Euthanasia, a reference handbook, published in 2008. Pain is described to have different levels. According to the book, some tolerable pain causes people to think about the end-of-life options. Some tolerable pain may lead to wanting more time for loved ones. Then there is intolerable pain. Pain and illness that even some treatments and medication cannot relieve, such as AIDS and certain types of cancer. In these conditions, many suffering patients turn to the idea of euthanasia, which offers a painless way for individuals to escape long-term pain and suffering. With all of the above issues and facts in mind, our proposed plan is to adopt the policies of Oregon and Washington for physician-assisted suicide. And for those guidelines and safeguards, we can analyze cases of physician-assisted suicide, refine current policies, and ultimately structure policy that is as safe as possible.